What's up, everybody? Today is the 2nd of August, 2023. My name is Derek, and welcome back to this, the 56th edition of the Superstream. As always, in each episode of the Superstream, we talk about several news stories from the past week, and we'll do so explaining it by the numbers, and this will be explained as we go along. So, to kick things off for today, if you happen to be watching this stream archived, check below, down in the description, to see a list of chapters if you want to jump to any of the 7 news stories that we'll be covering today. Now, the first 4 that you see on this list seem to be connected to one another, and also connected to a number of themes that I've been discussing on this channel for the past couple of weeks. First, for anyone new to this channel, we talk about the language of Gematria, the ancient number lettering system that sits underneath our English alphabet. And this is actually a very simple code to learn. You simply number the alphabet 1 through 26, each letter relative to its position in the alphabet. The ordinal method branches into what we call the base 4 methods, where the alphabetic order can either be reversed or reduced using the rules of numerology to produce a small set of different but related numbers. Now, the values that you get in these ciphers tend to be pretty small. This brings us to the extended methods, which produce much larger numbers. And we put a particular emphasis on this Latin method of Gematria, also known as Agrippa's key, as introduced in ancient Masonic texts. In that Latin method, the full name of Sinead O'Connor, who was the topic of the last video I made on this channel, her name sums to 929. O'Connor was best known for her song Nothing Compares to You. She was Irish, and the most popular Irish rock band in the world is U2. And it just so happens that later this year, on 9/29, or September 29th, U2 will be the first music act to play the new Las Vegas Sphere, the first of its kind entertainment venue in the entire world. The next story we'll look at will be the death of actor Angus Cloud, known for his appearances on the HBO show Euphoria. Angus Cloud, his name sums to 153, just like an incredible human, the quoted phrase in many of the headlines. Angus passed away on July 31st, the date leaving 153 days in the year. I'll also explain how this story connects us to a car accident in Kenosha where a red pickup truck smashed into a Play It Again Sports. And we'll explain that more as I go. This also feeds into the death of New Jersey Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver, who reportedly passed away yesterday on August 1st, or 8/1, after first being hospitalized on a date with numerology of 81. She was the acting governor in New Jersey for Philip Murphy, whose name sums to 81. He was born on a date with 81 numerology. The name Sheila Oliver equals 810, and her last name Oliver sums to both 81 in ordinal and reverse, just like the word ritual. We'll also cover the death of actor Paul Reubens, who died on a date with 44 numerology. This is a number we commonly see in stories about cancer. Cancer, chemo, kill, all summing to 44 in ordinal. Paul Reubens sums to 44. He spent most of his career entertaining children, which sums to 44. He played the character Pee Wee Herman, which even equals 1144. I also want to take a short minute to talk about the SAG-AFTA strike that's all over Hollywood right now, and why Fran Drescher is the face of this strike. You'll see that her Gematria in reduction syncs up with SAG-AFTRA's age when they went on strike. Fran Drescher, whose name equals 65 and 714, she's 65 years old, and this strike began on July 14th. Finally, we'll tap into this story about the cardiac arrest of Bronny James. This is yet another collapse connected to the Jesus code. Bronny James, 980 weeks and 5 days, or 74 days before his birthday. These are the two Gematria values of Jesus in Latin and ordinal. This even happened on a date with numerology of 74. Now, to kick things off, I want to explain a little bit about what I've been covering on this channel lately. Last week, I did a video explaining how the New York City crane collapse was connected to the Hunter Biden plea deal collapse. Now, this all happened in New York City. And a couple weeks before that, I did a video on the Long Island serial killer from Long Island, New York. And in that video, I explained how this was connected to July 26th. Again, I made this video 11 days before July 26th. And I explained how New York would be connected to Tisha B'Av this year. Tisha B'Av is the Jewish holiday that commemorates the destruction of the first and second temples. Tisha B'Av translates to the 9th of Av, as the holiday is celebrated on the 9th day of the 11th month on the Hebrew civil calendar. In Latin Gematria, Tisha B'Av sums to 911. This alignment extends to the Gregorian calendar, where the 9th day of the 11th month is November 9th, a date which has Gematria of 1109 in that same cipher. But think about how this connects to New York City. Just like how the first and second temples were destroyed, World Trade Center buildings 1 and 2, as well as 7, were destroyed on the 11th day of the 9th month, an event that we now know infamously as 9/11. So how does this connect to this year, 2023? Well, this year, Tisha B'Av fell on July 26th. July 26th is the same date in history that New York State was admitted to the Union. This year, New York turned 235 years old. The two temples were destroyed in Jerusalem, which is in present-day Israel. Israel sums to 235 in standard Gematria. In ordinal, New York crane collapse equals 235. And on that very date, July 26th, we ended up with a crane collapse where fiery debris fell into the streets, reminding us of the attacks of 9/11. So I did another video, again, this here talking about Biden, how that was connected. And in that video, I explained how it's connected to the Kennedy family, particularly JFK Jr., who himself died 2 days after a crane collapse in Milwaukee, and RFK Jr., who is currently running for president. The Kennedys, especially these juniors, are the closest thing that America has to princes. Of course, we don't technically have royal families here, but these men, the sons of famous politicians. This brings us to a riddle with Prince. Now, the Kennedy family is Irish, immigrating from Ireland. So you have this family from Ireland full of prince-like figures. Well, on the same day as the crane collapse in New York, we had the death of Sinead O'Connor. And she was famous because the musician Prince let her, an Irish singer, use a song that was originally performed by The Family. Now, once again, that song was called Nothing Compares to You, which brings us to the Irish rock band U2. And once again, later this year, U2 will be the first music act to play at the Las Vegas Sphere, the first venue of its kind in the world. So this Irish theme continued with the death of Angus Cloud. The name Angus in pop culture reminds us of another famous rock star, Angus Young from AC/DC. Back in 1995, there was a Hollywood film called Angus. And notice how the actor who played Angus in that movie has the middle name McClellan, which is actually an Irish surname, very similar to the middle name of Angus Young, whose middle name is McKinnon, another Irish surname. Now, Charles Talbot, this Angus actor, was born in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And in Kenosha, Wisconsin, 2 days after the death of Sinead O'Connor and 3 before Angus Young, we had this pickup truck crash. And what's so strange about this story is that I actually decoded it before I made these connections. And I happened to drive by the site of this crash the day after it happened, which kind of triggered me to look a little bit deeper. And as it turns out, that was connected to the numerology of skull and bones. Now, we've been talking about skull and bones a lot this year. This will be a theme in this video as well. Yale University, the home of skull and bones, turns 322 years old this year. Think about how skull and crossbones equals 223. 322, the number on the skull and bones logo. The death of Sheila Oliver, the lieutenant governor of New Jersey, is heavily connected to this code. New Jersey was founded 70 days after Yale's anniversary, and Sheila Oliver died 70 days before the anniversary. Her full listed name, Sheila Y. Oliver, equals 70, just like Yale University. She was born in Newark, New Jersey, and died after emergency medical care, a phrase that we'll look deeper at as we go. So let's get started and kick it off with this discussion about the Las Vegas Sphere, which again opens up on September 29th. Everything I just talked about is explained in this post as well. And what's curious about the Sphere is that it's been likened to a sun on Earth. Notice how this phrase sums to 929 in standard Gematria. Once again, this links up with the full name of Sinead O'Connor. 929. Now, the number 929 is what we call a prime number, which is something that's very important to understand when studying numerology. Notice how this is the 158th prime number. Sinead O'Connor died on July 26th, which is the date that leaves 158 days in the year. Sinead was best known for her song Nothing Compares to You, which was a remake of a family song. Notice how family has gematria of both 66 and 466. Sinead O'Connor was born in the year 66, and Prince died exactly 660 sidereal months after she was born. The name Sinead O'Connor and Sinead has gematria of 660 in various methods. And measuring from her death to the first show at the Las Vegas Sphere gives us a span of 66 days. It's also 66 days before the second show, which takes place the following day. In Sumerian gematria, which is the alphabetic order times 6, the first perfect number, a number important to time, MSG sphere sums to 660. The first act to play at the Sphere is U2, whose lead singer is named Paul David Hewson, known better as Bono. The name Paul David Hewson also sums to 66. And there's a connection with these two birthdays. Bono, born on the 10th of May, or 10/5, whereas Sinead O'Connor was born on a date with primary numerology of 105. Again, both of them born in Ireland. So I mentioned how there's a sun riddle with the Las Vegas Sphere, as it's incredibly bright and has drawn some complaints from locals who are near the building. An important number to the sun is 93, as it's believed the sun is an average of 93 million miles from Earth. Las Vegas is in Nevada, which has gematria of 93 with capital letters taken into account. This cipher also based on ordinal, but with capital letters mixed in. When the MSG Sphere opens, it'll be on the date that leaves 93 days on the calendar, September 29th. And then U2's second show will be on September 30th, the date written 9/30. In Sumerian Gematria, Christianity sums to 930. Of course, they believe Jesus is God's son, which equals 93, who died on the crucifix. 93. And the Son is very closely associated with Jesus Christ, who, once again, is the Son of God. In astrology, every celestial body we can see with the naked eye has its own magic square. The Sun's magic square is 6 by 6. And if you add every number in this magic square, it sums to 666. Notice how 666 has matching 275 gematria with Jesus Christ in Latin. On the date that the MSG sphere will first open, Sinead O'Connor would have been 20,750 days old. Of course, in numerology, these zeros are dropped in the result. So this number represents 275. Consider how U2 is from Dublin. And in Latin Gematria, Dublin equals 275. In that same method, the Las Vegas sphere sums to 1275, just like Jesus Christ. Now, many of you familiar with my work know that 666 and 33 are intricately linked. If you type out the number 33, you get a 666, and matching gematria with 666. Well, notice how the Sun has double gematria of 33. Both Sinead O'Connor and fellow Irish singer Dolores O'Riordan had 33 birth numerology. Sinead was even born 30 weeks and 3 days after Bono's birthday. In topic with the Sun, this brings us to the Tarot deck, where the Sun is the 19th card in the major arcana. Notice how U2's lead singer Bono has gematria of 19, a lot like the Las Vegas sphere in ordinal, 190. Bono was even born 1 year and 90 days before his guitarist, The Edge. In ancient Hebrew, the number 19 is significant to the kill code. Not only does kill sum to 19, but it also sums to 244, which is the Latin value of 19. Bono was born 2,404 days before Sinead O'Connor, who died during Brown lunation number 1,244. U2's show will be called Achtung Baby, live at Sphere, which sums to 244. And later on, we'll decode how this truck crash in Kenosha is connected. Kenosha 244. We're currently in the year 23, and consider how the band U2, U the 21st letter followed by a 2, that sums to 23. Sinead O'Connor was born on the date, leaving 23 days on the calendar. In Hebrew Gematria, Las Vegas, Nevada sums to 223, a lot like this year, 2023. U2's first show at the Sphere will be on September 29th, which typically falls 223 days before Bono's birthday. That date is also 142 days after his last birthday, and Bono equals 142. Bono is currently 63 years old. Paul Hewson Bono has double gematria of 63, but more significant, both Ireland and Irish has gematria of 63. So it looks like the record industry perhaps sacrificed an Irish singer so that this famous Irish rock band could kick in this new amazing venue, which is sure to bring in millions, if not billions of dollars to Las Vegas over the coming decades. The next story we'll be talking about here is about the death of Euphoria actor Angus Cloud. Fox News was sure to call Angus Cloud an incredible human, a phrase that they put in quotes. Now remember, when you see a quoted phrase in the headlines, it's almost a certainty that there is very relevant gematria underneath it. In the alphabetic order, an incredible human equals 153. This is the reverse value of Angus Cloud, who died on the date leaving 153 days in the year. Earlier, I mentioned how this is probably connected to the film Angus, a Hollywood movie from 1995. Once again, the lead character of that movie has an Irish surname as a middle name. The author of the book that Angus was based on was named Chris Crutcher, who also has this 153 gematria. If you add up every number 1 through 17, you get a sum of 153, and 17 is very significant to this kill code. Kill, sacrifice, and ritual human sacrifice, all with gematria of 17. And he even died at the age of 25. The word death equals 25 and the 25th prime number. Angus Cloud was 1,307 weeks old when he died. The main character of Angus is named Angus Bethune. Notice how Angus Bethune equals 137 in ordinal. Angus Cloud was born on a date with 134 numerology. This syncs up with actor Charlie Talbert, whose name sums to 134 in ordinal. So strong numerical connections between these two. And before I forget, Charlie Talbert also sums to 244. And in standard, Kenosha equals 244. That's his birth home. His birth home. That's a new one. Birthplace. But Angus Cloud was more known as an actor in the show Euphoria. Euphoria debuted on the date June 16th in 2019. June 16th is written 616, which is the Latin gematria of ritual sacrifice. In two ciphers of the English Kabbalah, ciphers which you can actually read about on Wikipedia, ritual sacrifice sums to 212 in multiple methods. Euphoria was created by writer Sam Levinson, and on the date that Angus Cloud died on the 212th day of the year, Sam Levinson was exactly 2012 weeks old. Angus Cloud played a character named Fez. Notice how Angus Cloud Fez has matching 154 gematria with Sam Levinson. Well, 154 is the ordinal value of ritual sacrifice. This phrase also sums to 107 in reverse reduction. That's a lot like Angus Cloud's birthday, the 10th of July. 10/7. The word ritual with capital letters also has double gematria of 107. In ordinal, ritual equals 81, both forwards and backwards. Curiously, Sam Levinson is the son of another famous producer, Barry Levinson. Barry Levinson is 81 years old. The author of the original Angus book, Chris Crutcher, has double gematria of 81. This phrase, an incredible human, in reduction, equals 81. And Angus Cloud, who played Fezco on the show, died on a date with primary numerology of 81. And with capital letters, both Cloud and Fezco sum to 81. But in order to really understand what's going on with this riddle, as it turns out, there's a major 9/11 riddle buried in here. Now, where does this come from? Well, the show Euphoria, the main character is played by an actress named Zendaya. She plays Ruby Bennett, who was born just 3 days after September 11th. So it's curious that they note this. This is a serious detail about the main character here, September 11th. And when you look at the numerology, in this death, it's completely connected to 9/11. Remember, ritual human sacrifice equals 9/11 in satanic gematria, whereas blood sacrifice equals 611. The satanic gematria cipher built around the number 666. The 9/11 attacks fell 119 days before producer Sam Levinson's birthday. And the birthday that's listed for Ruby Bennett, September 14th, falls 116 days before his birthday. Ruby's best friend in the show is played by Maud Apatow, an actress whose numerology we will look at more as we go. She plays a character named Lexi Howard, whose name sums to 119 in ordinal. Measuring from the birthday of Zendaya to the birthday of Maud Apatow gives us 1 year, 106 days in upside-down 9/11. From Zendaya's birthday to Angus Cloud's birthday gives us 1 year, 10 months, and 9 days. In fact, on the date of the 9/11 attacks, Angus Cloud was a span of 1,160 days old. Euphoria debuted 11 months and 6 days after his birthday. Zendaya was also 60 months and 11 days old for 9/11. 9/11 is the 156th prime number. Angus Cloud died exactly 1,506 days after the premiere of Euphoria on HBO. 1506 is another number of ritual sacrifice. Human sacrifice, also 156. But what's so significant about this is that the number 33 sums to 156. And 33 has matching Latin gematria with ritual human sacrifice, 895. The number 33 is significant to the World Trade Center, which was destroyed 33 years after construction began. Notice how Angus Cloud died a span of 324 days after 9/11. His full name in reverse equals 324. But back to this number 33. Again, 33 has gematria of 156. The World Trade Center destroyed 33 years after construction began. The number 28 also equals 156, and the World Trade Center was destroyed 28 years after it opened in 1973. Actress Zendaya, who is the main character of Euphoria, she has a lot of connections to 33 as well. Zendaya equals 113, and 11 times 3 are the factors of 33. Her character's name, Ruby Rue Bennett, sums to the 303rd prime number in standard gematria. The original author of Angus, his name was Chris Crutcher, which has those CC or 33 initials. When Angus Cloud died, he was exactly 300 months and 3 weeks old. On the date of the 9/11 attacks, he was 3 years old, and also 303 days before his birthday. Angus even died 333 days after Zendaya's birthday and 33 days before her next. The premiere of Euphoria fell 3 weeks and 3 days before his birthday. Angus Cloud was born 33 months and 3 weeks after the 1995 movie Angus. Again, in this movie, the main character's name, Bethune, sums to 33. And Angus Cloud died exactly 33 weeks after the actor who played Angus's birthday, Charlie Talbert. 33 is a significant number to the crucifixion of Jesus, who was crucified in 33 AD at the age of 33. Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, 303, just like crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which also equals 123. 123 is the reduction value of Zendaya's full name, Zendaya Marie Stormer Coleman. Pretty badass name, actually. Euphoria sums to 123 in reverse. Angus equals 123 with capital letters. And if you measure from the birthdays of Zendaya to Angus Cloud, you get the 123rd prime number. Now, this is also connected to Maud Apatow. If you look at Maud Apatow's age on the date that Angus Cloud died, she was exactly 1,337 weeks old. This is the standard gematria of World Trade Center, 1337. And notice how Maud Apatow's full name links us to 9/11 as well. First of all, her name sums to 186. And the 186th prime number is 1109. Her name also equals 111, found in the gematria of World Trade Center, destroyed on the date leaving 111 days in the year. But what sticks out more about this 186, the two planes that hit the World Trade Center were Flights 11 and Flight 175. And notice how these numbers add up to 186. If you take Zendaya's common name, Zendaya Coleman, and look at the Latin and standard methods, her name equals 11 and 175, just like the two planes that struck on 9/11. And her character, born 3 days after 9/11. Do you see the riddles here? Finally, let's look one more time at this phrase, an incredible human. Using square numbers, this sums to 1973. And the World Trade Center opened in 1973. All right, so we talked a lot about how the actor who played Angus in that movie was born in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Well, 3 days before Angus Cloud died, we had this truck crash into a building in Kenosha, and it just so happened that I did this post in the morning of July 31st. And then we got news of Angus Cloud dying later that day. And when people say that I'm locked into the Matrix, I mean, it's true. You know, it's not that I see things ahead of time, but I pick up on patterns which lead us into future news stories, as I demonstrated to start this video. And when I first glanced at the numerology of this story, I actually had no reason to do so, but this is something that happened somewhat near my house, and while I live in the Milwaukee area, Kenosha, which is about 35 miles south, is the hometown of my good friend and business partner for Gematrinator 85. So there's this link to me kind of in this story, and I was at his house this weekend, and on my way home, I just so happened to drive by the site of this crash the day after it happened, so that sparked me to look a little bit deeper. This crash into a building, which equals 78, was into a Play It Again Sports, which equals 78. And this happened on a date with numerology of 78. Now, 2 people died in this crash. And one of the names was Dylan Zamora, which sums to 780 in Sumerian. This is the same value as Skull and Bones in the same method. And I could not help but ignore the multitude of Skull and Bones numbers in this story. Now, when we talk about Skull and Bones, we'll mention this Rittenhouse connection soon. Skull and Bones is also known as the Brotherhood of Death. The words death and homicide have Latin gematria of 118. Notice how Play It Again Sports, the site of this crash, sums to 1118. 1118 is interesting because 1118 is the 322nd day of the year. And if you look at the death of Sinead O'Connor, she was even found unresponsive at 11:18. Now, it looks like they may have removed this from Wikipedia, but if you look at the news, yeah, 11:18 is when they found her. And this is a skull and bones nod. Again, 11:18, the 322nd day of the year. A big number this year when Yale turns 322 years old. But when you write out Play It Against Sports Kenosha, the official name of the store, it sums to 1,322. On top of that, it also sums to 295. And that's the ordinal gematria of 322. Of course, the same letters in 223. If you add up the two names of the victims, it equals 263, which is skull and crossbones in reverse. They were in a pickup truck, which matches skull and bones, and Yale's motto, Lux et Veritas. Even red pickup truck matches skull and bones, 202, double gematria. One of the victims was 22 years old, but if you add the ages of the victims, you get 43, which is the gematria of Yale, the home of Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones at Yale, Yale was founded on October 9th, the date written 1009. And JS Online, the largest local media outlet, published this story at 10:09 a.m. But this gets crazier. Consider how Yale's sports teams are called the Bulldogs. The word bulldog equals 73. Here we had a truck crash in Kenosha. Truck and Kenosha both equal 73. This crash happened 73 days before Yale turns 322 years old. This reminds us of the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting, which occurred during the social unrest in Kenosha. That shooting was on a date with 73 numerology. 73 part of this sacrifice code. Kyle Rittenhouse's age for this crash, matching sacrifice. Ritual sacrifice equals 616, as we talked about earlier with Euphoria. And this crash was 616 days after Kyle Rittenhouse was found not guilty. Kyle Rittenhouse was 1,073 weeks old for this crash in Kenosha. Yale University equals 173 in reverse. And I think it's fair to assume that this may have been a case of drunk driving, which equals 173. And Play It Against Sports is a sporting goods store, which equals 173. The city of Kenosha, 173 years old, measuring from their date of incorporation. I even made the post 173 days after the city's anniversary. 173 is the 40th prime number, and this crash occurred at the 4000 block, which is 40th Avenue. It was at 75th Street. 75th equals 159, 159 days before Rittenhouse's birthday. Also, Kenosha sums to 244, and this happened during Brown Lunation 244. So I certainly knew there was something deeper to this story. And then again, later this day, we got the death of Angus Cloud connected to Kenosha. So, strange stuff here, but this is what happens when you get a little deep into the rabbit hole, if I may say so myself. Speaking of Yale University, we had another highly, highly significant skull and bones riddle yesterday when acting Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver died after sudden hospitalization for an unspecified issue. In this story, we have the phrase medical care in quotes, and medical care sums to this special 223 number. as we see in reverse. Sheila Oliver died on August 1st, or 8-1. Sheila Oliver equals 810. The name Oliver has double gematria of 81, just like ritual. Sheila had taken place for Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, and boy, what a striking male model this guy is, hey? Now, I hate to stoop to making fun of people's looks, but damn, sometimes I feel like it's warranted. Anyway, Philip Murphy sums to 81, and he was born on a date with 81 numerology. Sheila was even hospitalized on a date with 81 numerology, which was the 31st of July, one day before she died. And notice how her full name, Sheila Y. Oliver, I've searched high and far. I cannot find this full middle name. Sheila Y. Oliver equals 317. Notice how lieutenant governor, her position sums to 235. Phil Murphy's full name sums to 227. And when she died, the state of New Jersey was 235 years, 227 days old. However, I want to explain how this death is connected to a particular solar eclipse that occurred at the South Pole in 2021. To this day, this was the last time Earth has seen a total solar eclipse. It's been a couple of years, but we still have not seen one since. Notice how New Jersey sums to 52, and New Jersey was the third state added to the Union. Third state equals 52 as well. Sheila Oliver was born in the year 52. She died on a date with primary numerology of 52. Now, when you write out the number 52, you get matching 124 gematria with New Jersey, Phil Murphy, and third state. Now, this brings us to this eclipse, which occurred on December 4th, or 12/4 of 2021. This eclipse belonged to Saros series 152. So we have a connection between 52 and 124. I actually talked about this connection previously in my video about the Reubens and Super Bowl 59. Lamar Jackson was born on a date with 124 numerology, and the Pope got a Lamar Jackson jersey on December 4th, or 12/4. Pope equals 52, just like nevermore, right? The word associated with the Raven. Ray Lewis of the Ravens wears number 52, and his name equals 1024, just like how 52 equals 124. Well, Lamar Jackson signed a $52 million contract 1,240 days after the Pope got his jersey on 12/4. So these numbers, 52 and 124, are strongly linked together. Measuring from that eclipse on 12/4 to the death of Sheila Oliver was 1 year, 240 days. Now, this measurement is also 605 days. And this brings us to the riddle with Yale University. When Phil Murphy and Sheila Oliver took office as governor, Phil Murphy was exactly 60 years and 5 months old, and Sheila Oliver was 65 years old. Well, when Oliver died, Phil Murphy was 65 years old. And notice how Phil Murphy equals 65, just like third state. Yale sums to 65 in reverse. Phil Murphy's full name has matching gematria with Yale University. Yale University founded on the date leaving 83 days in the year, syncing up with both their names. Phil Murphy used to be the ambassador to Germany, which equals 83. Yale University was founded in 1701, and the name Philip Murphy equals 171. Now, Yale University is located in New Haven, Connecticut. Just a couple hours after we learned about the death of Sheila Oliver, we learned about the death of another politician from Connecticut, Louis DeLuca, a former GOP leader of the Connecticut State Senate, dead at the age of 89. Again, this news on the same date as the politician in New Jersey. So you see this strong connection with Skull and Bones and Connecticut. Louis DeLuca was born on August 17th, which is just one day after Phil Murphy's August 16th birthday. So let's talk about Skull and Bones numbers. First of all, this 322. This connects us to the Saros cycle. Eclipses of the same Saros series are separated by 223 lunar phases. In Hebrew Gematria, the moon equals 223. This special eclipse in 2021 fell 322 days after the anniversary of these two becoming governor. And then Sheila Oliver died 22 sidereal months and 3 days later. However, measuring from the date that they took office to the date that Oliver died was 2,023 days. And notice how the name Philip Murphy equals 223. Sheila even born 22 weeks and 3 days before New Jersey's anniversary. Medical care, 223. In reverse reduction, medical care also equals 70. Sheila Y. Oliver has matching 70 gematria with Yale University, and she died a span of 70 days before Yale's anniversary. Yale established 70 days before New Jersey's anniversary. She was born in Newark, New Jersey, which equals 70. And if you measure from her death to her next birthday, you get 349 days. Well, 349 is the 70th prime number. In fact, her next birthday would be her 72nd, and the name Sheila Oliver has double gematria of 72 in reduction. Notice how Sheila Y. Oliver also sums to 160, like Yale sums to 16. She was hospitalized on a date with 16 numerology, and then she died the next day on another date with 16 numerology. Phil Murphy, as well as Oliver here, took office on the 16th day of the year, January 16th. And when Sheila died, not only was Phil Murphy 16 days before his birthday, but he was also a total of 24,160 days old. Notice how his full name has matching 106 gematria with Germany. And again, he used to be the U.S. ambassador to Germany. Sheila's full name also sums to the 43rd prime number. Yale has matching 43 gematria with New Jersey and Phil Murphy. Third state, killing 43. There's so many connections here. They're hard to all point out, but Yale's anniversary also falls 295 days after New Jersey's, and this is the number that 223 shares with 322. You'll see these digits very similar to the ones found in Sheila's age when she died. Next up, we're going to switch gears away from the skull and bones and Irish riddles. I want to talk about the death of Pee Wee Herman actor Paul Reubens, whose birth name was Paul Rubenfeld, who passed away at the age of 70 after a 6-year battle with cancer that he had kept private from the public for the whole time. Pee Wee Herman, a small but very notable part of my childhood. So it's always sad to see stories where people exit the world stage, but as always, it's by the numbers. And let's focus on this number 70, the age he died. His birth name, Paul Rubenfeld, sums to 70. And Reubens was launched into stardom with the 1985 film Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Notice how Big Adventure equals 70. This post will talk about how this is connected to two main words and the gematria of them. Cancer and kill, which both sum to 70 with capital letters. Cancer, of course, the disease that took his life. Now, the phrase total eclipse also equals 70. And Paul Reubens' death is heavily connected to the 3 solar eclipses that pass over the United States within a decade of each other. His birth name, Rubenfeld, sums to 156, which is a very significant eclipse number. Eclipses always occurring 1, 5, or 6 lunar phases apart. News of his death fell 252 days before the next total eclipse in 2024. And when you write out Paul Reubens, Pee Wee Herman, sums to 252. Reubens died on a date with 44 numerology. Paul Reubens equals 44. He entertained children, 44. Cancer, chemo, kill, all 44. Pee Wee Herman equals 1144. And when you write out Paul Reubens, Pee Wee Herman, as we did earlier, you even get matching gematria with 44. So Cancer equals 44, but we're actually going to see how the gematria of Cancer in all 4 base methods apply to this story. In reverse, Cancer sums to 118. Both death and homicide sum to 118. In ordinal, Pee Wee Herman sums to 118. In reduction, Cancer sums to 26. Notice how 26 is the value of Pee Wee's Big Adventure in ordinal, 206. In reverse, Pee Wee Herman equals 206. In reverse reduction, Cancer sums to 37. When Paul Reubens died, he was 3,700 weeks old. And he died on the 30th of July, or 30/7. Notice how Pee Wee's Big Adventure sums to 307 in reverse, just like the date he died. This even extends into Satanic Gematria, where Cancer sums to 254. He died a span of 254 days before the next Great American Eclipse. Big Adventure 254 with caps. What I also thought was interesting is that, when people think of Pee Wee Herman, they typically think of this story from 1991, where Pee Wee went to jail for touching his pee-pee in public. And this was made news on July 27th. And his show, Pee Wee's Playhouse, was canceled 2 days later, on July 29th. And July 29th, Reubens would die 1 day after that, July 30th. Very interesting. And it was 32 years after the anniversary of his cancellation, and Pee Wee equals 32. As has been made public, Reubens was battling cancer for the last 6 years. So it's reasonable to conclude that he was first diagnosed at the age of 64. Well, 64 is the number that Pee Wee Herman shares with Paul Reubens in reduction. He died 604 days after the last total solar eclipse, the one we talked about with Sheila Oliver. The word kill also equals 64 and 28. Well, Reubens died 28 days before his birthday. In Latin, kill equals 59. 59 is the value of both Pee-wee and Herman. In standard Gematria, kill equals 89. Pee-wee's Big Adventure was released on 8-9, or 89. And in Gematria, Pee-wee's Big Adventure sums to 89. Paul Reubens died 8 months and 9 days before the next total solar eclipse. His birth name, Paul Rubenfeld, and his stage name, Paul Reubens, both have a lot of Gematria overlap with the phrase total eclipse. The name Paul Reubens has matching Gematria with 70, the age he died. Paul Reubens summing to 134, just like solar eclipse, 134. And I thought it was interesting that he died a span of 2,170 days after the 2017 total solar eclipse. Obviously a number with the same 4 digits as 2017. But this is also connected to the annular eclipse that happens in October later this year over the southwestern United States. Pee-wee Herman died exactly 11 weeks before that eclipse. 11 is essentially the ordinal Gematria of 70, the age he died. 11 weeks is also 2 months and 14 days, and the name Paul Rubenfeld equals 214. That's also a span of 2 months and 15 days. And annular solar eclipse equals 215. That's the type of eclipse it'll be. Staying in Hollywood for the next story. This happened last month, but it's still very relevant to what's going on. Currently, there's a writers and actors strike going on in Hollywood. Separate strikes, but related nonetheless. And what I found interesting about this SAG-AFTA strike is that there's a face to the strike. SAG-AFTA, the president is actress Fran Drescher, who was known for playing the nanny back in the 90s. And as it turns out, Fran Drescher's numerology is actually very significant to this, which leads me to believe that this strike is actually being orchestrated at a level higher than the actors themselves. Notice how SAG-AFTA strike sums to 223, just like this year, 2023. And SAG-AFTA is not that old of an organization. You'll see it was founded back in 2012 on March 30th. Of course, that's a 33 date, so there's probably something fishy going on behind the scenes. So the SAG-AFTA strike officially started on July 14th. It was announced the night of the 13th, but the picket lines started on the 14th. Notice how that date had numerology of 64 and 28. This matches the Gematria of picket, 64 and 28. The word strike equals 28. So does SAG-AFTA, 28. The 28th prime number is 107, and measuring from SAG-AFTRA's March 30th anniversary to the date that the strike began was 107 days. In reduction, the phrase ritual sacrifice equals 107. And I believe that these actors are essentially acting out a ritual sacrifice for future gain in their industry. The phrase ritual sacrifice also sums to 73, just like sacrifice in ordinal. The SAG-AFTA strike began 73 days after the Writers Guild strike. And in the alphabetic order, SAG-AFTA sums to 73. Fran Drescher played a character named Fran Fine on The Nanny. And notice how this name, Fran Fine, also equals 73. Now, this character, intriguingly, has a full name, Francine Joy Fine. That name sums to 82, 80, and 1294. Well, when you write out the word strike, it sums to 82, 80, and 294. Now, is it possible this strike was scripted for decades in advance? I'm not sure. I think it's more likely that Fran Drescher was selected because of her character's alignments. SAG-AFTA strike also sums to 930 in Sumerian. And that stands out because Fran Drescher was born on September 30th, or 930, and she's the face of the strike. The Nanny has ordinal gematria of 101. Fran Drescher's full name sums to 101, just like the Nanny. How perfect, right? In reverse reduction, her name sums to 106. Measuring from the date SAG-AFTA was founded to the date their strike began was 11 years and 106 days. In fact, the strike began on July 14th, which is the Sumerian gematria of Fran Drescher. And Fran is currently 65 years old, which is her reduction gematria. Notice how Drescher was also born on a date with 115 and 34 numerology. This matches the reverse gematria of the Nanny, which debuted 34 days after her birthday. Her full name in ordinal, 200. Using capital letters, the Nanny equals 200. So, not quite as curious as to why she was selected for this role when you take a simple glance at her numerology. The last story I'll be talking about today is the sudden collapse of LeBron James' son, Bronny James, during a practice for the USC Trojans. Earlier this year, actually in January, I did a video on the collapse of Damar Hamlin. And for those of you who are just getting into numerology and want to dig deeper on this code of solar eclipses and how it connects to what we see playing out, this is a great video to watch. And this is very much connected to what happened with Bronny James, as Damar Hamlin suffered a heart condition on the field, which led to his collapse. And we're being told that Bronny James had cardiac arrest. Now, this has sparked a lot of debate about a certain shot that people have been told they need to get over the past couple years. I always throw caution over this debate. You know, the media wants us arguing. So a story like this is perfect for dividing the public because, you know, much like overturning a Brinks truck in your neighborhood, they just like to watch people fight amongst one another. So don't get too caught up in, you know, telling people, oh, the vaccine caused this. You know, there's something more to what's taking place here. And this is very evident through numerology. Now, the story of the collapse of Bronny James, just like the story of the collapse of Damar Hamlin, is completely coded up and down with the numbers of Jesus Christ. Now, back in 2021, I did a post about the collapse of football player Christian Eriksen, a Danish player. And his name was Christian, and this was very much connected to the whole code of Jesus Christ as well. Earlier in 2021, we had the collapse of a referee during March Madness, and he fell right on the letter T in Elite 8. And the letter T is the cross, just like how Jesus died on the cross. Cross equals 20, just like how T is the 20th letter. So here we have another collapse connected to the numbers of Jesus. His full name, LeBron Raymond James, which is the same full name he shares with his father, has matching gematria with Jesus Christ. So does LeBron James. Now, again, Damar Hamlin is a big piece of this, as he was leading the outpouring of support. And of course he was, right? When Bronny collapsed, Damar Hamlin was exactly 304 months old. Jesus sums to 34 in reverse reduction. Damar Hamlin has matching 203 gematria with Jesus Christ. Bronny James collapsed 203 days after Damar Hamlin collapsed. Bronny James was 980 weeks and 5 days old, and also 74 days before his birthday. Jesus equals 985 and 74. So does Jesus Christ. And he collapsed on a date with numerology of 74, which was July 24th, a date with a 7 and a 4 in the numerology. Now, perhaps the biggest event that's connected to the crucifixion of Jesus is September 11th. Consider how Jesus equals 11, just like the shape of the World Trade Center, destroyed on the 11th, on the date 9/11, which equals an 11. Of course, the World Trade Center, 110 stories tall, destroyed by Osama bin Laden, 110. New York is even the 11th state. Measuring from the date of 9/11 in 2001 to the collapse of Bronny James was 21 years, 316 days. So let's look at this number, 21,316. This is the 146th square number. Jesus Christ equals 146. Also, in this number is 1316. In Hebrew gematria, Jesus Christ equals 316. In reverse standard, Jesus Christ equals 1316. Also notice how Damar Hamlin has matching 146 gematria with cardiac arrest and Jesus Christ. Now, the number 911 is an upside-down 116. The trophy that's given for the NBA championship is called the Larry O'Brien Trophy. And notice how Larry equals 911. The last time LeBron won the Larry O'Brien Trophy was 1,016 days before his son collapsed on the court. There's some more interesting connections as well. My video on Damar Hamlin explains the deep connections to Freemasonry. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 1487. And when we got the news story the following day about the collapse of Bronny, LeBron James was 14,087 days old. Now, Damar Hamlin wears the number 3, and the name Hamlin sums to 666. Well, when Hamlin collapsed, Bronny James was 6,663 days old. So maybe that's a stretch there, probably unnecessary. But really, to understand what they're doing, just look at these deep, deep connections to Jesus and Damar Hamlin. You may recall that after coming back to life, Damar Hamlin faced some backlash for wearing this jacket that seems to have mocked Jesus Christ. And when you look at this, it's easy to see why, right? I mean, who does this? This isn't the best picture, but it just makes Jesus look really goofy. And it appears to me as mockery. Now, I believe the occult subjects these people to unknowingly mock Christ without the knowledge that Christ is actually very real. But we all have our different viewpoints on that. Of course, long before I started teaching Gematria, I came from a Christian background. Back when I was 16 is when I accepted the Lord and Savior into my heart. It took me a while to really come around and understand what I was supposed to do and what type of energy I was supposed to pour out into the world, but I believe I've reached that, at least part of that, through this work. So if you want more information on everything you saw in the stream today, as always, check the links down in the description below. You can find my blog there, where not only do I have more posts than what I typically cover in my videos, but sometimes I go deeper into my theory about what we're seeing play out and how we more or less live in a supercomputer that some people like to call the organic matrix. As a lot of people like to blame certain secret societies or cabals for what we see happening, while that is absolutely a part of what we see, my take over the years particularly has grown to believe that it's not that they're doing this, but that they're aware of this code that seems to run life and death by the numbers in this strange world that we inhabit. All right, everyone. That'll do it for this video. Thanks to everybody for watching. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, and if you really enjoyed the video or want a little more power from the Gematria calculator, please feel free to join at gematrinator.com, which supports the work and gives you access to better tools. All right, guys. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.